Folks. In the city of Tuskegee, Governor Beasley and other distinguished Alabamians. To the governor and all the split state capital, and I, as the governor of Alabama, give you a warm official welcome to make the announcement today that you go appropriate that Wallace & Wallace should select Tuskegee as a site for this refinery. Maybe some of you folks don't recall the fact that it was a white and black man working together. During the next 4 years, as I have tried to do in the past, maybe not in the minds of some, but in my own heart I know what I'm talking about, we're going to work to make Alabama a place where you can realize the American dream. And the American dream is peace and prosperity.
I hope that those of you who have come from across the country will see this day as a clear demonstration that Alabama and the South has the ability to deal with the problems facing her people. This nation needs to understand that here in Alabama, some of us are black and some of us are white, but in the final analysis, we're all Alabamians.
She's here, and more of my people here, and oil fields doesn't matter. You're coming for 15,000 miles sometime to bring the oil, so that doesn't matter. Oil fields, there's not enough oil produced in Alabama to take care of a refinery that size.
When did you decide to come to Tuskegee?
Well, when the United States government would give us a break to build refineries in the United States, then we decided to come back to Tuskegee. I was originally supposed to build this refinery somewhere in the Bahamas or some of the islands.
Tell us about this break.
Well, the government said that they wanted refineries to come into the United States, and they give us, for 5 years, we can bring 75% of our crude in without paying the import duty on it. And that would kill us in the first place. The import duty was a lot of money. That would made it uneconomical to come into the United States.
Tuskegee, but of the entire state. And I want to say to Mr. Charles Wallace, who is the president of Wallace & Wallace, and his wife, Mrs. Wallace, that we welcome. You up there all the time, and you don't know what it... Well, maybe...
That's the whole budget.
I don't see why that would jeopardize the whole budget.
To do that, and what this does...
I say, if I call a special session, they would have to agree, unless I change my mind, they would have to agree that the bill would go through in 5 days or be defeated in 5 days and go home and not spend $350,000 to $400,000 of the people's money down here fiddling around.
You gonna ask them about it?
Well, I said if I call one, I decide to think about calling one, but I haven't thought about even thinking about calling one now, so I haven't even talked to anybody about it, and I was putting everything in the context if I decide to do so, and so it would be under those circumstances. I think they can wait until, and I don't understand why they didn't pass the code this time. If they were ready for it, if they were not ready for it, that's another thing, but you know, the ideas of last night ain't in a good humor, so. A special session for what? May I ask the question, really? A special session for what?
I understand that the House and the Senate passed.
But I do think that the time has come when there are some in our legislative processes who feel that they want to determine not only the governor's appointments, but everything otherwise ought to come to a stop. And therefore, there are those who object, I understand, from the papers, that is, from the statement that you, Mr. Chairman, have made, that there were objections to Mr. Gray. I don't think any objection by any individual, by any group, by anyone politically otherwise could offset the knowledge in your minds and in my mind and in the minds of everyone in this state capitol and in the National Guard of his ability and his honesty and his integrity. And I hope that you will drop the politics aside and go ahead and carry him out of this committee and pronto confirm him in the Senate, as you did Senator Owens' brother that I sent up, and Senator Fred Jones, without one question. And neither one of those are any highly or more qualified than Henry Gray. Recommendations have always been interested in public education at all levels. And of course, appropriating funds for public education in Alabama is one of the most important functions of not only the legislature, but university presidents. The budget presented by the governors of the legislature. And we do this for the purpose of the governor being able to write. In the first place, I don't believe that the legislature of Alabama would pass any tax increase, and were they to do so, I would promptly veto a tax increase, a consumer tax, any consumer taxes by the legislature of the state. But I don't believe they will pass the taxes, so I am not for any tax program, any consumer tax program at all. And therefore, I do not expect any new taxes in this regard, and I do not support any, will oppose any. In fact, I would oppose any taxes of this sort.
Are you instructing the committee then, if they are to try to come up with a budget that spends only the amount of money that will be available under current taxes?
That's the only amount of money that will be available, as though the amounts of money that's available out of the present revenues that are in existence. We have to give a balanced budget under the law of our state, and therefore there's no way for them to recommend funds that will not be available. Otherwise, you'd have proration. This time, but there will be a number of millions of dollars other than that, I've not discussed.
Do they express any optimism of being able to accomplish what you wanted?
If we find that that is the case, why be the truth. So I hope that that is the end of the matter. I recognize that maybe you wanted to have this hearing to maybe one.
You know, a lot of ABC business is not in that office. We have 120.
That knows him knows it. Therefore, what is the question? In my judgment, there's some politics being played, and we all play politics. I'll admit that. But I do think it also is a slap at the appointment right of the governor, and I recognize it is the right of the Senate to give its advice and consent. But in my judgment, those are the cases in which there is some question about ability, about honesty, about conflict of interest. And there's not a single question in anybody's mind about his military ability, about his honesty, and about his integrity.
Alabama Cattlemen's Association, and I've been
from all over the state to the ABC department. As you know, I regulate 8,000 licensees that sell alcoholic beverages in Alabama. In addition, I regulate the distilleries, the wineries, and the vendors that sell to the ABC board. Consequently, I am constantly getting request after request for special interest decisions. And when I get a request, I apply 4 rules. I ask myself, is this request legal? I ask myself, is this request ethical? I ask myself, is it in the best interest of the state of Alabama? And finally, I ask myself, would I be proud of it if it were put in the newspaper and told to the people of Alabama? And gentlemen, I don't grant any request that won't pass those 4 tests. This is what I have strived to do for the last 5.5 years. Please speak on my behalf at this time, and I appreciate your letting them say something.
Civil rights movement here in Evergreen.
Well, we are still lack of better housing for poor people. We are asking for pressing for corrections of social ills that exist here. The lack in the process now, the papers in our lawyer's hand, of filing a lawsuit, a civil suit against the Executive Democratic Committee of the Connecticut County area here, because they arbitrarily set some filing fees during the last election for county elections.
Could you explain to us what they did?
Well, in 1975, the state legislature set forth a ruling or a law as it relates to filing fees for candidates. And that law stated that candidates wishing to file for public office, that their filing fees would be set at either 2% of the annual salary or $600, whichever was the lesser. In the case that we have in this particular county, there were some areas, county commissioners, just to pull one out of the hat, whose annual salary is $2,400. The filing fee was arbitrarily set by this committee at $150. Now, the annual salary being $2,400, that meant that 2% of that would have been $48 for filing fee. However, for some reason or another, reasons that we do not know, the committee set the fees at $150, which was $102 over what it should have been.
Reverend Matthews says the SCLC may file lawsuits in the area of housing and employment and to clear up what he says is police brutality in this area. But the Reverend has a personal problem of his own. He is out on appeal bond in connection with a conviction for extortion in connection with civil rights activities in Pensacola, Florida. He says he expects the Florida Supreme Court to clear him of those extortion charges. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News, Evergreen.
Well, I feel great about it, Wallace. We've, as you know, in the last 11 months, we've had a difficult time trying to raise the funds to restore the hotel, to renovate it, and make it modern. And after all this time, it just feels good to be able to open it.
What type of problems have you had financially?
We've run up against the, kind of like the chicken and the egg theory. If we can get the hotel open, we can borrow the money if we can prove it. And we can't borrow the money until we can get the hotel open.
And how much money is this that we're talking about?
In order to completely restore the hotel and to make it fully modern, new elevators and so on, and a good kitchen, it'll take approximately $2,150,000.
What, I heard you came up with one idea as far as $20 tokens are concerned?
Right. We had the $20 buck piece, and that worked fine. We seemed to run into a problem, not a legal problem, but a problem with the banks where they felt it was their policy. They didn't want to charge for a future contract. That is to say that something that may or may not happen in the future. And what we've done now, we've come out, we're going with registered stock now. We're going through the Securities Commission. We're going to offer to these same people that participated in the $20 buck piece to be able to participate in the stock program. And coupled with that, we're still going to give away the $10,000 first prize free, or the trip around the world for two, or the new Cadillac Coupe de Ville.
What do you think is the future if you get it going and everything? Do you think a large hotel like this one that's been built a long time ago, do they have futures, or are they phasing out? So many of them have been torn down in the South.
I've heard a lot said about it, Wallace, and the thing is that it's a nostalgic era today, and these hotels like this that are in, take the Battle House now in Mobile, those people down there have really stuck behind it. The banks came up and helped the Battle House. I understand it's a doctor down there, I can't think of his name now, but he's completely restoring that Battle House. And that old hotel itself is probably 4 or 5 miles away from the convention center. In a case like the Jeff Davis Hotel, we're downtown, we're centrally located, we've got the new post office right across the street and the Civic Center behind us. So I think that the success as far as this hotel is even better today than it was the day that it was built. Yes, is this 8346998? All right.
That verification data would only be obtained for the subcommittee would be responsible for collecting information.
Now that's probably going to be the area that we are going to be faced with the biggest problem. That is personnel. I don't think we'll be unlike too many other cities in being able to afford to hire the type of people that we're going to have to hire. Primarily what most of us are doing now, I would assume that a lot of them are doing the same thing that we're doing. You're getting by for the most part with people that you pick up who work primarily janitorial work and very little guard duty. Now I'm speaking now in terms of the smaller jails.
Department to are pretty well going to go down the drain.
I'd like to back up just to make this one point. Something was mentioned earlier about the possible legislation that you're looking forward to and need, and also the need for understanding among the people in the state for the problem. Of course, you know, we've all been working toward this for some time now, and I think from a pretty broad platform in the prison system, the platform which it does include a very involved court order affecting the prison system. And there's been a lot of talk for many, many months now about these problems, and a lot of proposed legislation. Well, with all due respect, and with no disrespect anywhere, out of all of the proposed prison reform and all of the assistance and all of the work that's gone into it, so far, 3 bills have passed.
On possession, put him out on the street, keep the guns running between the state of Virginia and Canada.